Welcome to the Python Looping Fiesta. Today we are diving into the magical world of Python loops. Let's embark on an exciting journey of repetition. Let's kick things off with our star players, for loop and while loop. These loops are like the superheroes of Python, helping us conquer repetitive tasks with ease. Check this out. For loop. Now imagine you are a superhero programmer and the for loop is your trusty sidekick. It's like having a superpower that lets you tackle a bunch of tasks in one go. With a for loop, we can loop through a collection of items like a list or a range and perform the same action for each item. It's like having a robot that does your bidding. The syntax for a for loop in Python is for item in collection followed by a colon sign, followed by the code block to be executed for each iteration. Here, the for keyword is used to start the loop. Item represents each element in the iterable. Collection refers to the group of items that the loop iterates over, such as a list, tuple, string, or range. The colon indicates the start of the loop body. The code block inside the loop is executed for each item in the collection. Remember, indentation is important to define the scope of the loop. Indentation is like the spacing or tabbing at the beginning of each line of code. Let's see this example. The lines of code starting with action 1 and action 2 are indented. The indentation shows that these actions are part of for loop. Indentation is important in Python because it helps the computer understand the structure of your code. It's like organizing your code into neat blocks. So, Python knows which lines of code belong together. Here's an example of a for loop iterating over a list. Let's break down this code. This line creates a list named numbers containing the numbers from 1 to 5. This line starts a loop that goes through each element in the numbers list one by one. Each time the loop runs, the variable I will hold the current number being processed. This line prints the current value of I. So when you run this code, it will print each number in the numbers list on a separate line. Now, let's talk about the while loop. Think of it as a persistent little buddy that keeps going as long as the condition is true. It's like having a pet dog that fetches data until you say stop. The syntax for a while loop in Python is while condition followed by a colon sign, followed by the code block to execute as long as the condition is true. Here, the while keyword is followed by the condition that the loop will check before each iteration. If the condition evaluates to true, the code block inside the loop will be executed. The loop will keep iterating until the condition evaluates to false, at which point the loop will exit. Let's take an example of a while loop that prints numbers from 1 to 5. Let's break down how this while loop works for each element. Firstly, initialize the variable num equals 1. This line is starting a while loop that will continue as long as the value of num is less than or equal to 5. Inside the loop, we print the current value of num. Then we increase the value of num by 1 for the next iteration. So what this code does is, first it sets the variable num to 1. Second, it enters the loop since num is less than or equal to 5. Third, inside the loop, it prints the value of num, which is 1 here. When num plus equals 1 is executed, the value of num is incremented by 1. And the current value of num is 2. In the next iteration, num equals 2. And it satisfies the while condition, so it enters the loop. Prints the updated value of num, which is 2. And increment num by 1, so the new value of num equals 3. And this goes on until num equals 5 and it prints 5. And num plus equals 1 increments num by 1. So num is now 6. Now the while condition becomes false since num is not less than or equal to 5. And the loop breaks here. So it prints numbers from 1 to 5. But beware, if you forget to give it a stop command, your loop will run wild like a herd of stampeding elephants. Right now, your while loop condition num less than equal to 5 will cause the loop to stop as soon as num becomes greater than or equal to 5. Let's see what happens if we give the condition while true instead. As you can see, this loop has become infinite. So what's going on here? When you use while true followed by a colon sign, it means the loop will keep running forever because the condition is always true. It's like being stuck in a never-ending game where the only way out is to press the quit button. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Python Unleashed. Until next time, happy coding!